Hello. Okay, we are ready to take any questions. If you are on Facebook Live right now, welcome to Singapore, welcome to Quest Ventures. My name is James Tan. This Ask Me Anything session or AMA session is co-organized with Caustic Ventures, the most awesome firm that we can think of in Kazakhstan and possibly Southeast and possibly Central Asia. You are able to watch it on the big screen. You are able to expand the entire Facebook Live onto your TV or anything you want. But more importantly, I would like you to go onto Facebook itself and type in messages or type in any questions that you have, which is the whole intention of today's session on what Quest Ventures and Caustic Ventures wants to do in Central Asia and in Kazakhstan. So keep the questions coming. We have some questions already from the audience. One is on remote working. As everyone knows, and I hope that everyone is also keeping yourself safe during the COVID-19 situation. In Singapore, we are also affected. We also read on the news that Kazakhstan is also affected by COVID-19. So I hope that everyone is keeping yourself safe and adhering to all the social distancing and health measures that are put in place. So on remote working, this Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator that we have in mind will not be a remote working program. We believe that there is value in physical workshops. We believe that there is value in face-to-face contact and in networking. And we have prepared and we have lined up a long list of mentors and interested parties and investors who are interested in work with you. So we are looking forward to working in person, on site in Kazakhstan. And for now, we think that in Kazakhstan itself, the country is so big, so we are looking at two key cities, Almaty and Astana, for the rollout. Okay, so we got another question. The question is on the benefits of the program. As an accelerator, the intention is to take in companies at the appropriate stage, and we'll cover that shortly. At the appropriate stage, we're taking those companies and we provide them with some advice, some networking with founders, like-minded people, whether they are founders or investors, provide them with the necessary skill set, pair them up with people that they may be missing from the team, for example technical skill set or marketing and so on and so forth, and most importantly fund them or fund you with some initial seed funding so that you can get started. Keep the questions coming, and I'm looking at our Facebook page to see all the questions that are coming through, and also some of you are private messaging me. You can private message me, but you can also bring your questions into the Facebook Live channel. Okay, the place that we are in. The place that we are in right now is focused on sustainable development goals. As you can see from the backdrop, the SDG or Sustainable Development Goals are not Quest Ventures goals. Neither are they Caustic Ventures only goals. They are from the United Nations. So there are goals that Quest Ventures very strongly wants to adhere to. There are 17 in all. We think that many of them fits into the Kazakh ecosystem. So we are looking at companies that are also fulfilling the SDG goals, not necessarily just focus on, say, for example, high tech or agri tech and so on, because we think that we should be all encompassing. Okay, I see a lot of non-Kazakhstan friends who have joined, and those of you who are from Malaysia, welcome. I hope you all are having fun with your MCO. And those of you who are from Singapore, of course, welcome. For those of you who are in Singapore, we are currently right in the heart of CBD in Republic Plaza. Okay, how much funding per project and what's the maximum fund amount? This is still being worked on, but you can imagine that at the accelerator stage, it is not that much different from an accelerator that is run by one of the co-partners of Caustic Ventures, 500 startups. So giving you a shout out to 500 right now. Not very much different, except that this is instead of being done in Singapore, we are going to do it in the city that you are in, and that could be either Astana or Almaty, which would mean that your cost is kept very significantly down just because you are in your home ground, and the support networks that we are going to put in place will also be your fellow Kazakh. Sales for the project, which is the pre-seed stage. I'm assuming that you're asking what kind of stage would be appropriate for your companies to come in. We prefer a company that has already proven its value, or what we call POV, proof of value stage. But even if you're in a proof of concept stage, which means that you haven't proven that there is value from the market, we are also happy to consider it on a case-by-case basis. Many of the top companies that we have backed over the last 10 years or so are companies that we have supported even when they were at POC stage. Any acceptance criteria for startups? I think now, first and foremost, you have to be very interested in the Central Asian market. You have to have some proven in terms of concept or in terms of value in the Central Asian market, especially in Kazakhstan. You have to have some interest in coming out to Asia or Southeast Asia in general. If you are interested in Silicon Valley, here I am giving a shout out to 500 startups again. Go to the 500 startups program that Caustic Ventures has also lined up for you. But if you are interested in Asia, in Southeast Asia specifically, then come to Quest Ventures, because we are here to provide a corridor for you to expand outside of Central Asia to Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia, in case you're not aware, is the world's fastest growing region. And that includes your 10 countries, which are Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and I'm probably missing out because there's just so many countries in this region, and therefore so much opportunities for all of us to tap into. Who is Quest? So Quest itself, in 2018, we are the top 50 most active funds in Southeast Asia. Fast forward 1 year, in 2019, we are the top 10 most active funds in Southeast Asia. But we are not a spray and pray fund. We don't just invest in many companies and classify ourselves as most active. I think that's meaningless unless we are also performing well. So we are top performing venture fund, as many of our investors in our fund can attest to, and they include the likes of your Caustic Ventures, which is a sovereign wealth fund, and also another sovereign wealth fund from Singapore. We are top performing fund only because we back top companies, and these are top companies only because they have top founders, and I would like to think that they are top founders because of the top support that we have given to them over the years. So that's Quest. Any acceptance criteria? I think we've covered that. How much did we raise and who is its biggest investors? Okay, I think this is a fellow or friendly competitor. We have not gone with any public announcement yet, so please do keep a lookout for our press releases or any media that is going to cover us. We think that in view of the current health situation, we just want to be focused on helping our startups fight through this current climate, and I would think that most people will be more concerned with the health of their families and their colleagues and their friends at this point in time, rather than a fund that has just achieved its first or second close and so on. So it is important for us, but we want to make sure that we are announcing it at the right time. But having said that, I think there are people like yourself who are currently live right now, and of course Caustic Ventures, who have been very helpful in supporting us. You can tell already from their public messaging that they are an investor in our fund, and why they have invested in us, because they think that I believe that they see that there's value that we can bring to Kazakhstan ecosystem and Kazakh startups as a whole. we have been very active in growing and grooming ecosystems. I see friends from Philippines who are also online. So we are helping different countries in different ways. In Vietnam itself, we go in at early stage, forming what we call the Vietnam Angel Networks. So bringing in not just ourselves, but a pool of angel investors who have exited their companies or are running their own companies, who know what it takes to run a company and therefore are pouring their resources back into helping the founders of tomorrow. We are also doing ecosystem building in places such as Myanmar and places such as Philippines, and of course in Kazakhstan. We will be spending so the question here is on how much will we be spending on Kazakhstan projects. I can assure you that it's a very significant amount, not just in terms of the amount that we are going to put into Kazakh startups directly as pure investments, but also in the support ecosystem that we want to put in place to help them expand the market out of Central Asia into the world's fastest growing economy or region, which is Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia is big, as you can imagine. So we will want to soft land first in Singapore, which is a very friendly hub, and it's pretty much an Asia 101 for many people. Soft land here, and then use this as a launch pad for yourself to expand to Southeast Asia, if not the larger Asia. Have I noticed any common problems or errors in Kazakhstan startups that we look at? We have been looking at a lot of Kazakhstan startups, and many of them are the seed or early stage. The likes of the more mature or later stage startups like Choco Life is far and few in between. But it also proves that because there is a Choco Life, therefore any one of you who are starting out and so on can be a Choco Life, can be a very significantly large startup that is raising significant capital to tackle real problems. So common problems right now, not just for Kazakh startups, but in general, are startups that are creating solutions that are looking for problems to solve. Let me say that again. Many startups are creating solutions that are looking for problems to solve. So therefore, there is no market demand and therefore no market need for what they are developing. So why are you working on that at all? So one of the proof of value that we are looking for, or POV that we look for, that I described at the very beginning of this webcast, was that we are looking for solutions that the market really wants. So if you can show that maybe a customer, whether it's a business customer or consumers, are adopting your solutions, I think that will be a very powerful signal to yourself that you're working on something that is meaningful, and a very powerful signal also to investors that we ought to be backing you. Right. Okay, the questions are coming in, so let me just quickly get through them. So I see friends from Cambodia who are now here. We are going to have more involvement in Cambodia soon, I guarantee you that. How important are the sales? Okay, we covered that. What is the minimal return from revenue for startups? I don't think we have a minimal value. We don't have a hard and fast rule on or a checklist that we need to go through and have approved before we invest in a startup. I think because we are all in the early stage, we are very comfortable with ambiguity. We are more reliant on what we can see in the eyes of the founders. I can assure you that Choco Life probably did not start out becoming the multi or super app that it is today. It started off solving one problem at a time and grew to the size that it is today. So we are very comfortable with ambiguity. If you come in as a project A and slowly find yourself over the next 10 weeks gravitate toward project B, we are also very comfortable with that. So in a nutshell, there is no checklist that we go through. There are specific sectors and size of the companies that we would like to have, just because this is an accelerator program. So we would like to take in early stage companies that are tackling what issues in what we call the digital economy. Digital economy encompasses everything under the sun. It could be companies that are trying to solve SMEs or small and medium enterprises problems with technology layer to help them become more efficient. It could be creating a new super app that does transportation more effectively or safer. It could be anything under the sun as long as it has a digital layer to it. Well, what we don't want are solutions looking for problems to solve, and for that I mean many of the deep tech companies that we're looking at right now, not just in Singapore but also across the region. Many of them are very sexy in theory, maybe even sexy in practice, but unfortunately no one wants to adopt them because they're just perhaps too far ahead of the curve or have something that is just not adoptable in real life. So we don't want that. If we accept B2B startups and at the same time target the Central Asian markets, are we able to help such startups enter local cooperation? I think you can be positive about the pool of mentors that we have lined up. We are very clear that we are not a group of Southeast Asians or not a group of Singapore or Malaysians or Filipinos going into Kazakhstan and claiming that we understand the market. We don't, which is why we are working very closely with very well-known, very respected Kazakh and Central Asian mentors and people who can help you open some doors, I hope. But a lot of it is also back to how you interact with the mentors and the people that we have put in place. A lot of it is based on relationships too. I would like to think that every startup that comes through the accelerator are very, very smart. In other words, you have the necessary IQ to tackle your sector that you chose to tackle. But the EQ part or the emotional quotient part is something that we think you can also improve upon. And throughout the 10 weeks or so that we will be working with you, we will be putting quite a fair number of mentors and advisors to work with you, and hopefully you get to a stage where they are so happy to work with you that they help you in any way that you want. So there's a question here on, did the list of focus industries and types of startups get to change due to this recent pandemic and recession? And what is the main focus field of QV or Quest Ventures for the startup stage? I think the focus industries have not changed. We remain very bullish and positive on say agriculture, agri-tech. We are very happy with sectors such as hardware, cybersecurity, oil and gas. Our sectors don't change because I think these sectors remain to have issues that we need to solve. Our way of doing things have not changed also because I think Caustic Ventures have been also very understanding that the value of such a program is not in the fact that we get it done and that's it. Doesn't make sense to do such things remotely. And we want to have this thing done physically, in person, in the city that you're in Astana or Almaty. So we want to do that when the pandemic or the health crisis is in a better situation than it is right now. Which means that we are going to start off or kick off probably in the second half of this year. Having said that, we are not stopping investments. If you think that your company is ready to receive investment, please send them over. The standard email for you to send them in is businessplan@questventures.com. I'll say that again, businessplan@questventures.com. And send it in, I can assure you that we'll take a look. Alternatively, of course, you can also route it to our friends at Caustic Ventures. I'm sure they will be helpful in recommending suitable investors, including us, to you. Okay, so there's a question here on how much is it in total, 10 million USD or less to invest in Kazakh startups. I think while Caustic Ventures, as you rightly pointed out, Ahmed, that they have invested 10 million, it is not a straight pass-through. In other words, we are not expecting to stop at 10. We firmly believe in the opportunities of Central Asia. I think you can see from our history that we are the first, or at least one of the first, to invest in Southeast Asia, and that's why today Southeast Asia's top companies such as Carousel or Shopback or 99.co receive their first checks from us. So we firmly believe in the opportunities of Central Asia, and which is why we have one of the top funds or the top sovereign wealth fund in Central Asia, which is Caustic Ventures, supporting us on that. And if you think we are going to stop at 10 million, I think that is would be very short-sighted for all of us. The opportunities in Central Asia and in Kazakhstan go beyond 10 million. So there's a question here on whether we will create RFS, a request for startups, from Nerlan Nermanov. Nerlan, I think what you're asking for is a list of problem statements. I think that's a very interesting, very good idea. We have practiced such an approach in other areas. We will do so also for the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, which is what we are rolling out in Kazakhstan. We have problem statements that we would like startups to tackle. Ideally, already started to tackle at a POC stage, even better yet, POV stage, before you apply. The problem statements will revolve around problems that you can already see in your home country, and that could be perhaps transiting from an oil and gas dominant economy over to a tech-driven economy, for example. Also inefficiencies that we can see in daily life. So we will come up with the list of problem statements. But if you have any ideas on problems that we should be tackling, also please feel free to send them in. My email is James, James.tan, that's my last name, at questventures.com. I'll say that again, james.tan@questventures.com, and I welcome any comments or feedback that you think we should be adopting to roll out this program. And you have a unique opportunity right now because there's no such program right now that has such a long planning cycle, and we are talking about 3 months away. We definitely have enough time to incorporate a lot of ideas. What is our focus on sustainable startup technologies and our view on green finance? And this is a friend from Singapore. I'm not sure where he is right now, maybe in New York, but he's from Singapore. So we are very interested, as you can see from my backdrop here, the Sustainable Development Goals is at the top of our mind. But when we make an investment, the ESG layer may or may not be in place, and we don't necessarily take it as something that must be in place before we make an investment. I think even companies such as Gojek right now, or Grab, and you can position it as providing income for low income people, but I'm very sure they did not start out that way. They started out solving a real problem first, which was to provide transportation for people who need transportation, and then it gravitated towards also helping the lower income provide employment for them. So I think I would like to start off with solving real market needs and providing real market solutions first, and I think the any charitable angle can come later. But if you're talking about a problem or solution that starts out as having ESG first or impact first, and also bearing in mind that financial returns is also very important. If it has all this in place, there is no stopping us from looking at it. In fact, we welcome it. As you can see from the backdrop, there is the United Nations Social Development, Sustainable Development Goals, all 17 of them. So there's a very good question here from Ashokan. Is there something in your opinion that can move Kazakh startups forward quickly? Yes, be ambitious, be very ambitious. The Kazakh market is big, but it's not that big. There is also Central Asia, and collectively I think as a region, Central Asia is huge. But then again, there's also beyond Central Asia, there are also other regions. And traditionally, I would guess that Kazakh startup or Central Asian startup gravitates naturally towards Russia, and in perhaps recent years gravitate towards China. And of course, given that we are all in tech itself, we also gravitate towards US, where Silicon Valley is. But I would like to very strongly promote the Southeast Asian angle. As I've highlighted, it is the world's fastest growing economy. It is a place where a lot of ideas are thought of and implemented very quickly. There are tons of issues to solve. So if Kazakh startups want to grow quickly, I think number one, be ambitious. think out of the box from Kazakhstan and quickly go into another market. And for us right now, it will be Southeast Asia. Come to this market to test bed your products. We have cases in the likes of Caustic, a Kazakh startup which has moved out of Kazakhstan already, expanded outwards, and is using Southeast Asia as its next very viable market. Kaida asked whether do startups have to be original in their idea or can it be about doing something better. I think originality is overrated. I mean, even ride sharing is not new when it first started by Uber, and Uber wasn't the first. There was also Zimcast. So originality is overrated. I tend to value execution a lot more. So if you have something that does things a little bit better, ride sharing that is done a little bit better than just hailing a taxi from the streets, it works. And just a little bit of work, people have created multi-billion-dollar companies from it. So you don't have to be necessarily original. In fact, about 10 years ago, when I was based in China itself, the C2C, now called consumer to consumer, used to be known as and mocked as copy to China, where people in China itself will copy ideas from usually Silicon Valley over to China, and that's called copy to China, C2C. Nowadays, we see that China is already a very viable source of ideas and inspiration. So people outside of China are copying ideas from China. Putting that in Kazakh context, you're welcome to take ideas from elsewhere around the world, not just from Silicon Valley, but can be from Europe, can be from anywhere, and localize it and implement it in Central Asia or in Kazakhstan. And to us, that works. Medet says, do we plan to financially support startups of Kazakhstan nationals working in the UK and other states? We are agnostic to Kazakhstan nationals who are working in UK or Singapore or Malaysia or anywhere else. In fact, there are many Kazakhs who are working and studying in Malaysia. We are agnostic to that. We are open to supporting good ideas, not necessarily where it comes from or who are the people behind it. I think what we value after the good ideas will be, do the founders have a very clear idea of what they want to do next? Do they have integrity? Are they prepared to execute this for the long haul? So these are the things that we'll look at. It doesn't matter what nationality or where they are currently based. For the purposes of the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, you will have to be in the city of Astana and or Almaty for the period during the accelerator, which is about 10 weeks. These are two very beautiful cities. I know Astana can get very, very cold and very, very hot. But these are two very, very beautiful cities, and I will hope to work with you on site, in person, in those two cities during the accelerator. So Ahmed asked, what is the difference between the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator and Astana Hub Incubation that already uses quite a bit of good local and international mentors? We are in touch with the Astana Hub. In fact, many of the people there running the programs and running the management and so on are good friends or friends whom we have known for a while, whether they were in the past working in Singapore or in Malaysia, and whether through just us visiting them. So we already know each other. I would say that accelerator programs each have their own different flavors, and startups that want to go into any program should be very clear on what's the value add that the program can bring. I'm very clear that the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator that Quest Ventures is doing together with Caustic Ventures, the value that we bring is an external corridor, a new market for Kazakh and for Central Asian companies to tap into. And that new market is the larger Asia, starting with Southeast Asia. How much time will we be able to commit to the project selected? That's a question from Ashokan. We are committing at the minimum the 10 weeks that we are working side by side with you, but we know the business doesn't stop there. You are going to continue to fundraise after the 10 weeks. There will be road trips to Southeast Asia, to Singapore, and to other key markets in Southeast Asia for the companies in the program. So we are going to be with you on those trips. I can guarantee you that even if those trips will not be 100% on work, there will be lots of fun. So I hope that the startups in the program are open to spending more time with us beyond the 10 weeks. So I see my colleagues right now who have already started to also key in business plan at questventures.com is where you can send in your business plans if you have any good ideas. I have so Ahmed says you have an online live education platform development idea. Is it under areas that you can apply to Quest Ventures? Yes, you can. Education technology or edutech is an area that we are keenly aware of and very interested to invest in. Education uplifts the entire economy. It has returns that are measured in decades, not in years, not in months definitely. So we are very interested in that, because once you have a population that is uplifted, done well, of course with the startup that you're building, once you have a population that is uplifted, the economy grows, you have a growing middle class, propensity to spend is there, the entire country does better. So we see that our friends from Caustic Ventures, Diaz, has also jumped in. Please also send your applications into startup@caustic.vc. That's startup@caustic.vc. As you know, they are co-organizers of this Ask Me Anything or AMA session. They have also been very helpful to all of us, whether we are from Singapore or whether we are 500 startups from Silicon Valley, to bring in more external capital, or what we hope are smart capital, into Kazakhstan and into Central Asia as a whole to grow the ecosystem. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of friends who are currently on stay-home notice or quarantine. As you know right now, I hope that everybody is keeping safe in the COVID-19 health pandemic that is going on. Those of you who are under quarantine, you're also welcome to send in comments or questions. Alright, Ashopan has a question on, do we help startups in organizing their internal structure and processes? Yes, we do. We don't want to be unnecessarily interfering in running a company. I mean, seriously, if you were to roll out our sleeve and run the company on your behalf, it is something that you will be comfortable with. I'm going to venture that you are not comfortable with that, so we don't. But we have seen enough companies and have worked with enough corporates and SMEs and so on, that we think we have some idea on what the best practices should be, what the best organizational structure should be. So we will definitely be suggesting ideas for improvement for your startups when you are on board on the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator KDA program. Janat says, what is the deadline for submission? We are targeting June kind of opening, so you are way ahead of the curve when you ask about a deadline, because we have not even opened submissions. But as I said earlier, if you have an idea that is worthy of funding already without going through the accelerator, or can get funding and then still go through the accelerator, we are open to taking in those plans. You can email them to us at businessplan@questventures.com or to our Caustic friends, which is startup@caustic.vc. Kaida says, or asks, given the size of the Kazakh market, what strategies might work before a startup can go internationalized? The size of Kazakhstan market is a double-edged sword, meaning it's both a pro and con by itself. It's large, but then again not that large. So I would like to, for Kazakh startup to adopt a Singapore mindset from day one. And the Singapore mindset is this: we in Singapore, we know that we are a small market, but we also know that we are right in the heart of a big market called Southeast Asia. So transporting that concept to Kazakhstan, you can imagine that Kazakhstan is a small enough market, but a large enough market when thinking in the context of a Central Asia. And for Singapore companies or Singapore startups, we think global from day one. So the companies or the solutions that we develop are not just for Singapore. They have to be for the larger Southeast Asian market, if not the global market. Okay, I got some more questions here. There have been a private message. The mentors. Mentors are the mix of foreign and local mentors. The foreign meaning outside of Kazakhstan. You can imagine a mix of mentors coming not just from Singapore, but also from around the region, from Malaysia and from Indonesia and so on. Each bringing their unique perspective to how they are solving problems in their own home country, so that you get a really quick and hopefully heavy download of all their experience within the 10 weeks. Founders, we are also having a mix of founders. Founders who have been there, done that, who have exited, and also founders who are currently perhaps 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, ahead of the companies that would usually be in an accelerator, so that they are not too far removed from the stage that you are in, and can provide experience or advice that is very relevant to you. Okay, another private message would be the topics of the master classes. We'll be holding some classes during the 10 weeks. Of course, we will have a lot of ample time for you to work on the problem that you want to solve. We can't be doing classes every day, 24/7 for all 10 weeks anyway. And then after that, you don't have time to work on your own problems, right? So we'll be doing master classes, and they will revolve around the likes of your legal, growth hacking, product optimization, technology stack, for example, marketing, sales, market knowledge 101 for different markets outside of Kazakhstan, for example. So whole range. You can expect that every week you will have at least, so the cadence will be this, you can expect that every week you will have at least 1 masterclass that will put you in close touch with one of the more experienced person in that area. You will also have networking sessions with fellow mentors or fellow founders, and then we are going to have to continually emphasize on your growth, growth. So we are going to be working with you side by side on that every week without fail. Number of companies in the batch. I think there is no hard and fast rule on the number of companies in the batch, but just to make things more efficient and also to make the crowd more interesting, you also want to have a significant size of founders or startups in the batch. We are looking at about 10 per batch. There is no maximum or no minimum, but 10 will be ideal. We can have it go up a bit more. We think that it should be a good enough size for mentors and for founders to get to know one another very closely, and to support one another very, very closely. Okay, I'm seeing some people pitching directly on your own ideas. For those ideas that are perhaps good but maybe not so relevant to the current live session, I welcome you to send them in directly to businessplan@questventures.com, businessplan@questventures.com, or if you are in Kazakhstan or if you are Kazakhstan related, you can send them into startup@caustic.vc. Okay, Nolan has a question. Just to better understand our market, do they need to localize the products to each market in the Southeast Asian region? Localization in Southeast Asia is definitely needed, but it's not a very involved or problematic thing, as you can imagine. If you look at the likes of Uber or the likes of Grab in our region, they definitely localize, but by and large the app's the same. By and large the solution is the same. There are also definitely customizations that are added on per market, sometimes to comply with regulatory conditions, sometimes to tap onto new segments, but by and large the underlying layer is the same. Okay, some of the questions will be location. Locations will be Almaty and Astana again. Almaty and Astana. First stop is very likely to be Astana, but we are open to suggestions. We know that it can get very hot and very cold in Astana, but then again it's a very beautiful city. So to avoid it would be quite foolish on our part. So we want to get things going in Astana and in Almaty. So if you're online right now and you think that there's something that you want to work on with us in either city or in both, feel free to reach out to us. and we can see whether we can work out something for the program itself. And that's speaking as if you are not a startup, but you want to work on some partnership together. Okay, what's the relationship between 500 startups and us and Caustic Ventures? I think Caustic Ventures itself has very smartly decided that Kazakhstan startups can expand, needs to expand globally, and to do so they would usually be looking at US or Silicon Valley as a first stop due to just its history as an inspiration for technology and also as a hub for venture capital. But I think as Caustic Ventures, through putting money where their mouth is and actually doing it, have also rightly pointed out that Southeast Asia is the world's fastest growing economy or region, and it cannot be ignored. And I will also take a step further and say that while we want to rely on familiar markets, we cannot be too overly reliant. We need to tap onto the energies of young founders to open new markets. So putting that in Kazakhstan context, it will be, we have traditionally been reliant or working very closely with Russia and to an extent China itself. We want to use this opportunity to grow our markets beyond our two friendly neighbors, to go to Southeast Asia and to go to Silicon Valley. So the relationship between 500 is directly with Caustic Ventures, and our relationship is directly also with Caustic Ventures. We know everyone, or as many people as we can possibly know within 500 startups. We know all the friends in Mountain View. We also know all of them operating in other parts of the world. One thing that we are very different is that we are very selective on the companies that we work with. So we only have about 50 plus or so companies in our portfolio, and even then we are already the top 10 most active Southeast Asian venture funds in 2019, and the proof is really in the pudding. We have been consistently top performing, and that again comes back to because we are backing top companies. Top companies are being run by top founders, and the top founders are hopefully provided support by top funds like us. Okay, so is project selection done purely by Quest Ventures or together with Caustic Ventures? Project selection, meaning the startup selection for the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, will be jointly done by Caustic Ventures and Quest Ventures. You can tell by the names and the similarity in names, both in acronym QTV and QV, and Caustic Ventures and Quest Ventures, that we are already very closely working together. Not just in our processes and so on, but from the day we are born, our names are already very similar. So yes, the selection will be jointly done. May I also ask how transparent is a project selection process? Because in Kazakhstan, transparency is a big concern. How will you solve this issue? Thank you for pointing that out, Ahmed. I think you can assume that from speaking from a Quest Ventures perspective, we are going to be extremely transparent in our criteria. So we will mention that when we call for entries, and then when we eventually select those 10 companies or so that we are going to select and put into the KDA, I think you and the general public can be confident that these are really the cream of the crop and the best that Kazakhstan has to offer to put through the program. Unfortunately, I don't think that we will be telling the whole world who has failed to make the cut simply because it may not be their fault. It could be that they are not at the right stage for us, but maybe, who knows, maybe someone like Choco Life wants to go into the KDA with us, but you know, they are so big, I don't know whether they want to take the relatively smaller checks that the accelerator will want to give them. So we are not going to say that Choco Life failed to meet the cut, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So we don't know, or rather we don't intend to say who didn't make the cut, but I think you can be assured that those who make the cut, who come into the program, will be the best of the best. Kaida says, can I repeat how much we invest per startup, the minimum, the maximum, the average? For the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, that amount is confirmed, but I cannot say too much yet, simply because we're still going through just an evaluation process to make sure that it makes sense. Also because Quest Ventures ourselves, with Caustic Ventures help, we also have a fund that follow-on invests. So we want to make sure that at each funding, the stages of funding, the check sizes that go in, the co-investors that go in, the sizes all make sense for everybody. So in a nutshell, there is an initial accelerator check that goes into the startup that comes through the KDA program, and then thereafter, if there are certain criteria that are met, there could be follow-on funding, not just from us, but from other investors or venture capital firms that are interested in Southeast Asia or Central Asia, and therefore through our connections or through just being very interested in you, reach out to you. Ahmed has a lot of questions. So will projects be financed only through KDA programs, or Kazakh startups can apply directly? You can do both. What the KDA program does one step better than just receiving funding from us directly is that it puts you through a 10 weeks or so program, and it handholds you through how you should be building companies that can scale, that can replicate, that can target and penetrate big markets very, very quickly and effectively. And this is a mantra that we live day to day. Scale. What is scale? So scale to us means that if you are growing a $1 million company in Almaty, can you scale it to become a $10 million company in Almaty, $100 million company in Almaty? Replicate is when you take that same $1 million company and take it to Astana or any other city outside of Kazakhstan. And it could be Moscow, it could be Singapore. You take it, you replicate it to the next city, and can you again grow it from 1 million in Singapore to $10 million in Singapore, and then to $100 million in Singapore, and so on and so forth. So scale and replication are words that are being used very interchangeably by many people. Usually they tend to misuse the word scale, but we split up the approach very differently when it comes to scale and then when it comes to replication. So we want to take you through the entire process of how do you scale up your app, how do you replicate that app for different markets, whether they are in different cities within Kazakhstan or outside of Kazakhstan in Southeast Asia. And then we also want to focus your energies on tackling solutions that matter, solutions that really solve huge problems, and thereby providing you with huge opportunities. And for us, that means necessarily operating in large internet economies. For us right now, it's very clear Central Asia is a huge internet economy, and so is Southeast Asia. So we hope that through this corridor that we have opened up between Southeast Asia and Central Asia, that you will tap into this KDA program to come over to Southeast Asia to expand your business. Ahmed now declares that he is an NUS alumnus and based in Singapore, and his office is in Block 71, which is where our office is also. So welcome. You're welcome to come to our office. It's currently under renovations. It's also the place that all the Kazakh startups through the KDA will be housing themselves when they come over to Singapore for the Southeast Asia leg. Okay, some other PM or private message questions, and please keep the questions to the channel so that everybody can see, but nonetheless the benefits of the program that was asked. So I think in addition to the master classes that I mentioned earlier, we are also looking at providing funding support. That's very clear, but funding not just in the initial checks, but also in follow-on funding. We think a lot of early stage startups, whether they are from Kazakhstan or whether they are from Singapore or anywhere in the world, many of them have issues framing their problem, articulating their solutions, explaining why they are the best team to tackle this at this point in time. So we want to work with you to articulate it and summarize it into a very good pitch, so that investors are very clear, and investors are busy people, so they are very clear on what advantage you have, what solutions you have, and so on, and they are willing to support you in terms of follow-on support, follow-on funding. Other benefits of the program includes networking with founders. I think it is very helpful for founders who are by default very lonely because they are tackling problems and by themselves, and usually at the early stage they have no other support networks that they can tap into, unless you're like someone who is in NUS and based in Block 71, then maybe you have, but a lot of times, or even in Astana Hub, then you have a support network, but a lot of times founders are in a lonely area. So we hope that the 10 or so companies that we bring on can group together a group of founders who are who can help one another. Okay. More questions. Kaida has a question, and then later on there's a question on female involvement, which I'll probably get my colleague to answer on the female, on how we support female founders. So Kaida's question is on how involved do we get with decision making in the company. I think in terms of strategic direction, we will be very involved. In terms of execution, we will be as involved as you want us to. We are here to support you in running the company, but not to run the company. You are still the CEO or CXO of the company, and we hope that you can take the company not just through the accelerator, but also through the years to come. So we want to make sure that you are able to grow as a company grow. So we'll be involved at the board level for sure, strategic level for sure, perhaps at some financial level and so on, but running a company is really something that will be very much dependent on you and your core team. Okay, so one of the PM questions is on, I'd like to invite my colleague Michelle Quek to come over very shortly. I think a female question, well, I think I can tackle it. I think might be better if a female tackles it. So who are the female founders, or what kind of female founders we have supported? Who are the female investors that we have who understand female problems? I think she'll talk a bit about the female investors that we have, and how perhaps proactive that we have in supporting female-run companies. Michelle, let me hand over the time to her for the next few minutes.
Thank you, James. Yeah, hi. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. Yeah, so regarding the question about female founders, right? Right, yeah, so currently we have two female founders at Quest. So let me take a look. Yeah, one of them is Elizabeth, and she's in charge of she's the venture partner for ESG, and the other one is Yiping. Yeah, and so Yiping is the partner for the venture fund. And yeah, so yeah, I would say we help to invest in a lot of female founded companies like Saltieri and also like Hedge. Yeah, so these are all female founded companies, and we are very open to inviting female perspectives into our fund and into the companies that we invest in. Yeah. Let me take a look what other questions are there. So how much equity does Quest Ventures take in invested startups? Yeah, and that depends. So we don't have a definite answer for it. So, but it's about 10 to 20%. But it all depends. Yeah, so there's no like definite answer to it. Yeah. How involved do we get with decision making in the company? Let me pass the time on to James, who will continue with that. Yeah, James, please.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Michelle was talking about the female support, because some of the questions I think it might be better for females to answer. Okay, there's more female questions. Shopan says, does the support for female founders differ from general support? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The support is the same whether you are female or you are male or anything in between. The same support goes to you. But I think it helps if a founder speaks to a founder, a female speaks to a female, and a male speaks to a male, and so on and so forth, in the areas where it makes sense. I very strongly believe that founders with the necessary experience can provide a lot more value than investors who perhaps provide nothing more than just the investments and perhaps a lot more of a very top view of a lot of the companies that they invest in. But founders are always making things happen in the trenches, getting work done. So, which is also why Quest ourselves, all of us in the investment team, we are all founders or ex-founders. I think we bring a certain mindset that is very different, and you can see for yourself later on when we are working together on the KDA program. We view things very differently from the professional investors out there. While we are also, of course, fiduciary managers of investors such as Caustic Ventures, we also think that founders need to have the freedom and the resources to tackle the problems that they have devoted their next few years of their life to tackle. Okay, we are at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. in Singapore, but 11 a.m. in Kazakhstan. I see there are some more questions, so we are just going to keep this open for the next 10 minutes or so. Keep the questions coming, and if there are any questions that appears after this live cast, we will try our best to answer them in the same channel. Alternatively, of course, you can always email in your business plan to businessplan@questventures.com or startup@caustech.vc. And my email is james.tan@questventures.com if it's got nothing at all related to the above two. So Kaida asks, can we suggest must-read books or materials for young startups? I think it's not just one or two books. I suggest you go to www.questventures.com. That's www.questventures.com. Go to for startups, and there will be a link that says family benefits. That's family benefits, which is a lot of benefits for the Quest family or companies in our portfolio, which also KDA companies in the program can enjoy. Scroll all the way to the bottom. There is a bonus section. All the way to the bottom of the family benefits page, there is a section called bonus, and you can click the link through. It goes to Google Docs where there's tons of reading materials there that we have curated over the years. Some of it is several years ago, but still very valid. Very valid advice that you should go through. In fact, I think maybe during the test questions that we have for you when you come and apply for the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator, some questions may come out from there. Who knows? Okay, I'm afraid I can't pronounce the Russian name or the Kazakh name. What is your company's expectation from agri-tech startups? Agri-tech startups, we are looking at, I would say it's the same as every other startup out there. We are looking for real solutions that solve real problems that are hopefully very big. And in every country or in every market, we know that these solutions and these problems will necessarily be different. In more mature markets like Singapore itself, we are looking at vertical farming. We are also looking at, for example, at emerging economies. In Malaysia itself, we are looking at perhaps clean water supply for the farm. In China itself, we are looking at whether we can, through the efficiencies of the similar to ride sharing or resource sharing, can the middle layers or middlemen be removed so that farmers get more take-home pay and thereby provide more for their families. And the end user, which is the restaurants or the customer, also have produce which are cheaper. So it really depends on what solutions you have. Criteria will be, it must be in search of a real problem to solve, and it must be tackling a very large problem to solve. Think of this way, it's not just the market opportunity that a large problem or a large solution will solve. It's not just that. It is about you spending the next 5 to 10 years of your life trying to tackle a problem. And do you want that problem to be small, or do you want that problem to be big? I think that if you are dedicating 5 to 10 years of your life to work on a startup, to tackle a problem, you will want the problem to be big, to be worthy of your time. So don't waste your time on small problems. Don't waste your time on small solutions. Think big, be aggressive. Okay, I think we have about 5 minutes left. I see that the questions are, well, still coming in, but I see some PM also. PM, what's the purpose of the KDA, and perhaps what's the purpose of investing from or asking Kazakh companies to expand to Central Asia? I would say very safely that it is in your interest to have a company that can grow beyond your own country, beyond Kazakhstan, to larger economies out there, and that could be a Central Asian economy, or that could be like Clockster, which has expanded beyond Kazakhstan to go into Southeast Asia. You significantly level up your skill set, you grow your team, you grow your revenues, you perhaps raise more money along the way to fund your operations. You are tackling a much larger problem with your solution that is not much larger. I think that's also more meaningful. Some other PMs or private messaging. If you have any questions, please feel free to just put them in the channel. Chopin asked a very good question, and it's a very good question that I think we can end the session with. Do I think that there is something in the Kazakh projects that we waste time on, or are there things in Kazakhstan that we waste time on? I think waste is for sure, not just in Kazakhstan but also in Singapore, where I'm from. In pretty much every country that you can go to, there are some startups that are that shouldn't receive funding. If you talk to a much larger or more fund that invests in way more companies, a few thousand or few hundred companies, I can guarantee you that there will be many companies within their portfolio that are simply a waste of everyone's time. And the crux comes to, is the solution looking for real problem to solve, or is it the other way around, a problem looking for a solution, or a solution looking for problems to solve? And I come back to what I started off in the very beginning of this live class. Please be a solution that have real problems out there that needs to be solved, and your solution plugs very nicely in to solve those problems, and all it needs is a little bit of funding, a little bit of mentorship, support, and so on and so forth, that can help you get those problems solved. Don't be a solution that is looking for a problem to solve. And we see that all the time in deep tech companies, in that are just solutions that are created already but having no real problems out there to solve, and thereafter they fail, and it's a waste of everyone's time and money. Okay, with that, I think we come to the end of our session. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to be on this call, this live class. Thank you for all the enthusiastic questions that have been coming in. And if you see me looking a lot to the left side, that's because that's where my laptop is, and looking at all the questions that are coming in. Keep your questions coming, and if we see them on the channel, we will try our best to answer them. Otherwise, there are emails that are already in the channel that you can email your questions or your business plans to. Once again, we are here because of our collaboration with Caustic Ventures, who is also the co-organizer for this Ask Me Anything session. And we want to use this opportunity to encourage startups in both in the Kazakhstan ecosystem to apply for the KDA, which will hopefully be starting sometime in June, depending on the health situation. And on that note, I wish everybody a very healthy next few months. Please be safe, keep safe in the COVID-19 situation, and I look forward to working with you on the Kazakhstan Digital Accelerator. Thank you.